Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have singer, songwriter, viral sensation, known for putting his sauce on a lot of our favorite R&B classics, Seattle's own, Darnel Alexander. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. Look, man, I miss my hometown, man.
Oh, man, where are you now?
I'm in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis? Oh, man, that's worse. The cold weather? I was there
Dude,
last year, man.
look, the
I was,
cold here is no joke. I swear to you, when you can drive on the ice, you know something's wrong.
I, we were walking through the what is it called, the Sky Track or
Yeah,
something?
the skyways, yeah.
Skyway, yeah. That was amazing to me. I was like, wow, you
hmm
can go from pretty much one end of downtown to the other
Yeah.
without stepping outside. Go to the mall, go to the basketball
But
game.
you know it's serious when they got skyways everywhere because you walk outside and it's like -20, you might not come back inside.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I mean, Minneapolis, just so much classic music
Yeah.
coming out of there. How are you as far as touching the live music scene? Like,
I'm in and out. I dabble a little bit. I get out there. I support my buddy Jordan Johnston. He's been working with me to produce some nice collaborations. Every now and then I get out and see what's happening. But usually it's like bonkers. They got a lot of popular folks that pop up in there. It's a good scene out here. There's a lot of musicians doing their thing.
so you just mentioned Jordan. You two
Yeah,
put out a single recently, "What If,"
right.
reflecting on a relationship that didn't work out, and if it did, like how it would
Right.
look. Yeah, just
Yep.
talk about that collaboration and how it came to be.
Look, I found Jordan on IG, and I didn't see him when I was out and about, but I noticed he was doing some classic music, and I'm all about the classics, and so I started listening to what he was doing, and then we linked up, and he said, "I got a song for you that I wrote." His dad, Bob Johnston, was signed with Flight Time Records. I was like, "That's why it's got that cool sound, from back in the day, right?"
Uh-huh.
And so we collaborated and did the duet "What If," and then we've got another beautiful love song coming. I'm not sure if I'm going to release it towards the beginning or the midsummer, but it's a banger, man.
Okay. All right. Looking forward to that. Cause yeah, like you were mentioning, just that flight time, 80s, Jam and Lewis,
Yeah,
Morris
man.
Day, Jelly Bean Johnson,
Yep.
just that sound that is signature.
Yeah.
Like, I love the way you all kind of captured that.
Yeah. I mean, I think he does a really good job of keeping it classic, but still giving like a current feel to it. So I'm really proud of that young man for coming with it.
Do you feel like that's sort of your formula now as far as tapping into the past while putting a new school flavor on it?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times you think, oh, the old school artists, they can't compete with what's happening now, but people still are hungry for some real rich music that's got, the changes and the chord progressions, and people really sing it out, you know what I mean? Like just really expressing their emotion. So, not to say that there's not a place for all the auto tune and stuff that people are doing today, but, people want to hear some real singing still.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely no auto tune when it comes to you. You have a sound that harkens back to Luther Vandross and
Oh, yeah.
Donny Hathaway and Will Downing and Keith Washington. You
Yeah, man,
know,
those are my dudes, man. I mean, when I was growing up, I would listen to their songs and just the tone alone. That's what really stuck with me is the tone because you could feel their emotion through just the vibrations of their sound versus like all the runs and all the stuff that people can do. I can do a few runs, but I'm not like some of these new cats that just be sounding like they sound like autotune, but those are some runs. They can really kill
uh-huh.
it. But I just really like to make people feel something.
Right. That's great. That's great. So the other single, Amazing,
Yeah.
uh, talking about your angel.
Yeah, right. Amazing was written by Dennis Bettis and Dennis Atkinson Jr., who both are Grammy-nominated producers who produced people from Johnny Gill to Charlie Wilson. Keith Sweat, one of my favorites back from the 80s. This song, is kind of fitting the vibe that I want to do is just lift up women, appreciate a good, woman and the love between a man and a woman. Skip all the drama. Let's talk about what all the good parts that are happening. I like to focus on the positive side.
That's good because I mean, so with my other show, The Good Old Boys, we did a show last night called Dating in 2025 and all of the different tactics that are used, like hot wifing and boys sober and
What? I need to pop into that. What?
ghosting, ghosting and stuff like that. Like I said, I've been married, so I haven't been in the dating world in several years. So
Good
like
for
all of
you.
this is somewhat foreign to me, but it's hard out there for singles.
Yeah, and it's a whole new landscape now, and I think that people are still really ultimately trying to find the holy grail, which
Hmm.
is the long lasting, healthy, non toxic relationship. But I think a lot of people forget to really work on themselves before they jump into one, and it's just a matter of making sure that you truly love and appreciate yourself, respect yourself, and you can bring that mirror to the person that's coming into your life.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely I'm
You know
definitely
what I mean?
I'm thankful that, life is so much more easier when you just have that one person and you're
Yeah,
sitting there
yeah, because
going through that.
you got to spend all kind of time, especially if they're trying to juggle two or three people. You got to they all want your time. So
Hmm.
with one, it's much easier because you got enough stuff going on in life. But if you got two or three people, you're trying to figure out who's the best one, and you got to spend all this time. You take away time from all the things that are really important in your purpose and priorities.
Exactly. So I want to ask you this guy here.
Oh, my dude.
So what does this brother mean to you?
And Luther Vandross is like everything. My mom took me to his concert. One of the first concerts I went to was Luther Vandross as a kid, and hearing someone that sounded better than the record was incredible. I'm just like, what in the world? Um, it was that concert where he was singing. Oh, you want to sing with me too?
Yeah. You got another you gonna have a duet.
Yeah, but it was the concert where he was walking back and forth on stage
Uh-huh.
and just hitting that one note, where he's like, a house is not a home,
Uh-huh.
and that was my favorite song to sing during talent shows. When I was in high school, singing a house is not a home. I was like, if I'm gonna sing a song and compete with, excuse me,
Bless you,
with
brother.
somebody, that's the song that's gonna guarantee winner. I mean, it's like 7 minutes long. You can't
Hmm.
lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and just he's my favorite R&B singer of all time,
All
by the
time.
way. So, you're you're gaining a lot of attention for your covers of Luther's
Dude,
immaculate catalog,
man,
and and it sounds like you went to his gravesite and took his voice and put it in your body, and the results are just like, wow, a reincarnation of the legend himself. So like,
yo,
I commend you and I
thank
thank
you.
you because like his music has just left a immeasurable imprint on so many of us,
Yeah, yeah.
and like, I really enjoy what you're doing.
Man, this goes all the way back to when I was a young teen, and and you start like liking girls, and you're just like, how do I get the pretty ones, and how do I make this happen? And like you fall in love from afar before you even have a conversation with her, and you don't get the girl, and then you feel lonely, and then Luther Vandross's music was hitting me at that time of all the loneliness and the searching for love, and it was like everything that he said meant something to me, and through years of singing that, I guess his sound kind of stuck with me because I had my own original material ever since the '90s, and I was working on just doing my own original stuff. And it wasn't until last year when I did TikTok, I was singing a Luther Vandross song in the garage, right in the garage of all places, and it
Uh
hit
huh.
like 3 million views. I'm like, that was very surreal to experience because I was never one to believe I'd be going viral doing anything, and I
Right.
didn't have a real following prior to that. So that was hard too, right? As an independent artist, you want people to love what you're doing and hear your music, but apparently covers was the way to go. So then I started doing the covers, and people just loved it. I was like, this is my lane right here. Let me go out here and sing a few songs so people can enjoy this, because I was keeping it to myself. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just singing this stuff down the hall, or singing it in the garage or in a sport court somewhere in the gym, and minding my own business. But I'm just grateful that people want me to share this with them.
Right. Yeah, because Luther is known for taking somebody else's song and making it his own, and
Lutherizing it.
yeah, you completely forget about the original version in
You
most
do.
cases. Did you feel like those are tremendous shoes to fill?
I feel like they still are. I mean, his range is higher than mine. He's more like like a first tenor. He's way up there when it comes to overall body of range. But I'm more of like the Will Downing, kind of in between Will Downing and Luther as far as range. I like the lower, the lower key stuff where it's just smooth right in that sweet spot. Like the most recent cover I did of Anyone Who Had a Heart, and that one scared me. That one scared me because when I sang it, I was like, okay, wait. But then when I put it out in the response, then I had to listen again. I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. Like that intro, that it's I don't even know how to explain it, but it just hits.
Were you afraid to put it out there?
Sometimes, because when I listen to it, I'm like, I don't want to do too much to a Luther song. It's like sometimes people will be in the comments and like, you need to make it your own. I'm like, that's going to be tough, because I'm just going to sing it like I would sing it, but keep it, pretty close to what Luther does, and put a few of my riffs and stuff in there. But I don't sound exactly like him, but to some people, you know what I mean, with their ears, it's like that kind of does it is him, And then they're like, you're lip syncing, and I'm like, no, this is really me, right? But yeah, man, he's in my heart, he's in my soul, and I'm just I feel blessed to be able to kind of create new music that can still keep that sound alive.
Right. Has any of his loved ones or frequent collaborators reached out to you?
I haven't been in touch with anyone from the Luther camp, but I certainly would welcome that, and would love to do something, do a remake or anything. That would be beyond my wildest dreams.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, which we're gonna get into a little bit more later, but like you said, you've been in the industry for over 30 years,
Yeah.
been part of groups, been
Yeah.
putting out your own material.
Right.
Was it somewhat of a surprise that your notoriety would come from doing covers on TikTok and social media, like especially with the longevity of your career? And I'm sure there were moments when you just felt like giving up, and now all of a sudden, like it's a breath of fresh air. And
Yeah, man, it's crazy, because it's like I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna keep putting music out because I love to create music and record, regardless if I have a following or not. It's just something I just feel a passion in my heart, and I even took a hiatus a couple of years to kind of work on myself and get my mind right. I didn't know what was coming, and then when this came along, I was like, oh my gosh, I have another chance to try to like do something for real with my talent and my gift. And now I'm taking it very seriously, not taking myself too seriously, but taking, the gift that was placed in my lap seriously, and giving back to people who want to hear this stuff. I do my original stuff. I do Luther tributes. That's just been surreal. I mean, it's been less than a year, and I've already done the Apollo Cafe at the Apollo Theater. Did some shows on the East Coast and West Coast. So I'm going to be getting out there and sharing this stuff with everybody.
right. Talk about the gift and the curse of, I guess, the success and fame from doing the Luther covers, because it can work both ways. Obviously, it's elevating your platform,
Yep.
but then you don't want to be typecasted as just the guy that does Luther covers, and
Yep.
and your other music gets swallowed up by that fame. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it.
I think it's going to be more like, if you look at October in London, he was, doing Marvin Gaye stuff, and literally you listen to it, it's Marvin 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to do Luther covers, that's even bigger shoes, I feel like, to fill, because he's so dynamic and so, universal worldwide, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Got a visitor. Oh my God. Hey, come here. Hold on a sec.
Uh-huh.
Come here, you crazy girl. You are just loving this. Okay. So, yeah, to be able to, do these, my original stuff, it's really kind of like I want to do that transition where I'm still able to do the covers of Luther, and then do the original stuff that still has that vibe to it. And I think that's what people can now see, that I'm a real independent original artist, but with a little touch of Luther in it.
Yeah. It just dawned on me because I interviewed Brad Marquis like
Yeah,
about a year and a half, 2 years ago,
yeah.
and he was singing Sam Cooke songs.
Oh wow,
They created a stage play around it.
wow.
So
That's pretty dope.
I'm putting this bug in your ear,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just to say that that's a potential avenue as well.
Well,
There's a
they just had the release
documentary.
of the documentary, which was amazing. But yeah, I'm definitely open to any of that type of stuff, to be able
Uh-huh.
to bring Luther's history and his legacy to life. You know what I mean? Some people. There's a lot of people that I hear that have done Luther covers. We got the Latin Luther, and I've heard of Danny Clay is a really amazing guy. I found him on YouTube, and I was like, this dude. I was like, it kind of makes me
Uh-huh.
think, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like these guys are really good. So I guess I'm just blessed to be able to fit into the lineup of people who honor Luther. I just feel like my relationship with his music is very personal, so I don't try to say I'm better than anyone or any of that. I have my relationship with his music, and I'm doing my part to keep his legacy alive.
Great.
Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338, or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
All right, so Darnell, take us back to Seattle in the early days. I
Yeah.
mean, what was the music scene like? I know obviously grunge was just tearing up the charts, and you had Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Yeah.
But what was it like for a young R&B singer such as yourself to kind of make a imprint on the industry coming from there?
That was crazy. Those were good times. So much talent in Seattle, especially when I was coming up, doing the talent shows in high school. And then when I got out of high school, going to the clubs and starting to, see other people that really had some real gifts. When I got out of high school, I started working in the studio, and that's when I really started meeting quite a few talented folks. So we were all, quote unquote, trying to make it, right? And Sir Mix-a-Lot used to live right down the street from me, right in the hood, just like, and then I'm like, okay, so I knew who he was. And then when I got with Third Level, I had a chance to meet him, and then we did a single called Show You, and then there's another song, I think, Don't Play Me. That was on his Seattle The Dark Side compilation. So I felt really honored to be able to be a part of that. And then that was really the start of my professional music journey, really, from that point. And then got with Second Nature. We were, when we got with Second Nature, that's when we were really trying to do it, because we were signed to a small label. And when I was with Third Level, it was just independent. So, but with Second Nature, we started going on tour and started, meeting all these, people that we grew up with and saw on TV and on BET. It was crazy.
So, like with your time as with Second Nature, do you feel like you were prepared for what was to come, or you were pretty much just? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
we before what happened, we once we got once we got the deal going and that was solidified, we went instantly into practice mode. I think we were definitely ready. We weren't caught off guard, except for some of the situations when you're on the road. Like, you don't expect people to be chasing you in a mall, that kind of stuff.
Right.
That was the craziest experience ever. We were in Canada, and like literally hundreds of people were like running after us, and it was crazy. But we were definitely prepared to be on the big stage and do these shows with like Patti LaBelle and We did the Apollo Theater, and then we did, I think we did some shows, some appearances with Boyz II Men and some other groups. So, and Montel Jordan. So there were some really cool experiences throughout that that stint.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe the sound of Second Nature?
It was more like pop R&B. It wasn't like the down and dirty like Jodeci. More crossover of like Boyz II Men, more like happy love type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a song called Later, if that's in the lineup, that's a little bit more grimy, which I like.
Right.
A little bit more R&B.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because I mean, obviously, that time frame, like groups were everywhere. Like
Everywhere.
you said, Jodeci, Boyz II Men, All for One, Intro,
Right.
Drew Hill, yeah, just millions of groups, all successful. Like, what? How was it? How was it to just try to find your own sound with just so many other groups
Yeah.
out there
Yeah.
dominating and having eccentric personalities like a Cisco and a
Yeah.
KC.
Right. Yeah, that's and literally it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it's like when we came out, we were trying to be whatever we thought the ideal boy band group was. The clothing. We had like two guys wearing this and two guys wearing that, or we'd all wear the same thing. In my mind, I think I would have rather had us been more individualized, but then then you do have to step it up to be a little bit more outlandish, right? A little bit more characterized.
Mm-hmm.
But we had our own sound, but we did want a better sound. We wanted to work with the Baby Faces and the Jimmy Jam and the Teddy Riley. We wanted to get a sound that was from that time really popping. And I think we could have achieved that, but we just had a short stint, and then it went from boy band to pop boy band, NSYNC, Backstreet, and then that was it.
Uh-huh.
So we had a little run, and that was it.
So after that chapter, what was the next chapter? Did you immediately go into dropping single music by yourself, or did you find a normal 9-to-5 job? What happened?
Yeah, man. I went right back to work. I went back to work, and I was like, it was almost like put your tail between your legs and try to figure out what you're going to do next. From there, I was in a disco band for a couple of years. That was probably the most fun I've had in a long time. Singing all the old hits from the 80s and stuff in the 70s. And then I took quite a long break before I started getting into my own original material. That started really in 2009. So,
Mm-hmm.
From the late 90s, I kind of took a hiatus from doing a lot of stuff until 2009, and then started working on making records by myself, finding music and producers to give me, songs to write to. And from that point on, I have been writing ever since.
Okay. Yeah, so for those aspiring musicians that expect to hop on The Voice or American Idol and then have success pretty much all in one fell swoop, like you're a prime example that it's a roller coaster ride. Like you're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, but if you stay dedicated and persistent, your time will come. So,
Yeah. Well, I think the real thing that a lot of these, especially the younger artists, need to realize is, there's going to be all these highs and lows. Don't get so high on your high horse, like I'm famous and people know me, because a lot of people are seeking validation too, on top of trying to be an artist. And you have to remember, this isn't, the type of situation that's going to, bring you happiness or bring you joy. You should be already there before you get into the industry, because it'll break you if you don't have your stuff together. You've got to really be grounded to go through the ups and downs, to encounter all the closed doors before you get the open door.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you get the open door, that door might close like 30 seconds later. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. So you always hear about groups that get deals and then they never come out, and so you always got to be, ready for what could come. Always, looking at the glass half full, but be prepared for somebody to spill a little bit. You know what I mean? And so for me, I've always tried to keep a love for just the music, regardless of if I'm out performing live or if I'm just in my basement making jams. I just want to feel good about what God gave me as a gift, and just stay true to that and let everything else happen.
Right. How do you feel about the state of R&B right now?
It's crazy, right? Because I feel I don't feel like, and maybe I'm because I'm not really in the industry, but I don't feel like the excitement is there like it used to be back when when Teddy Riley and those guys was out. Babyface, that was magic moments. I had Johnny Gill out there. They had all the, like you said, all the groups, the intros, the Jodeci's, and music was such a vibe then. And I'm not saying it's not a vibe now. There's a lot of cool artists, but I don't feel like it has the impact that it used to. Almost like the dream, and a lot of things have happened so far now that have crushed the dreams of many because, the veil has been lifted, so to speak, So, but I feel like R&B in general, we as a collective need to consider all the beautiful parts of music. Don't just push aside the types of, now you got Southern Soul coming up, right? And then you got the stuff that I do, which is a little bit a take on the old school R&B, but there's a place for all of that to be in the forefront in the mainstream R&B instead of just the same old stuff that you hear that I feel like doesn't, always touch our hearts and souls, but it makes you bob your head.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a lot of microwave music, and you can tell that there's a formula being used, and
Yeah,
the
big time.
songs are lasting 3 minutes. I
Yep.
mean, that's another reason why this man is my
Yes.
favorite. You have those 8-9 minute songs with the instrumentation that takes you on that emotional roller coaster, like Vivian Green said, and
Yeah.
then that voice just comes in and it's over.
It's the buildup. It's like, nowadays when, people just want to have sex, but back then they were making love. You
Right.
know, that's the analogy I would say. And I remember when I did my EP in 2022 or 2023, and I
Yep.
literally made every song like 2.5, 3 minutes because I knew people's attention span was really short for that kind of music. So I was kind of on my Tank vibe, right? Just singing some really cool songs over some really cool beats, but nothing too deep, right? But my goal has always been to be able to create those songs that last for 3, 4, 5 minutes to give people a journey. The intro, and then have the verse, the chorus, the bridge, the change, bring people way up, and then just take them out. You know what I mean? And make them want to rewind the song again and play it over and over like we used to do back in the day. I would wear some records out.
Yeah. Yeah. I was I was the same way, especially if I was going through a breakup. It was a
You're
wrap.
like, oh man, play it again, please.
Yep, all night.
Yeah.
Especially now on YouTube where they have those 24-hour loop songs.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you could
yeah,
just play it, let it go all day. Yeah,
yeah.
that was me. Um, so I mean, but it actually sounds like you've mastered um, knowing how to utilize social media without it compromising your creative integrity when it comes to the music that you put out.
Dude, and look, at my age, I tell you, man, I'm like, you look at a lot of different artists, they've got the technology, they've got the nice cameras and you say to yourself, do I need to jump on that bandwagon? So there's the rift of saying, how do I keep it as authentic as possible? But, I don't want to make it seem untouchable either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a level of production that you can do that takes it, to the pro level where all the Chris Browns and Usher and Tank and all those guys are doing, but then I almost feel like you leave people behind too. So I feel like I try to keep it as real and authentic as possible, until some shift happens and I'm with a distribution company or a label that's giving me money to really kind of give people the dream.
Right. What's something about you that people would find most surprising?
I'm funny, but I don't always, put that across. But I like to imitate voices and people, just random stuff. That's one thing. That's a characteristic of me that comes out in certain situations. But yeah,
All right. All right, cool. So, what do you see when you look in the mirror?
I see a person who's motivated and driven. I've changed so much over the last few years. I've been working on my soul, working on my spirit, and I like what I see when I look in the mirror. Sometimes I don't look at myself when I look in the mirror, and I'm like, oh wait, I better shave. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not checking myself out to see if I'm, looking right. But I'm a happier person. I'm more appreciative, more grateful for every day that's given to me. And when I look in the mirror, I see someone that is acceptable to share with the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, what's one collaboration or behind the scenes moment that you were a part of that we may not know you actually contributed to?
Bro, look, I one of my favorite things that I used to do, and I did those pretty much most of the 90s and into the 2000s, was jingles. So if a lot of people that listen to like the slow Midnight Love, Quiet Storms, I did Delilah's radio jingles, that like love someone tonight with Delilah. That whole stuff. Just random songs. But yeah, so, and then I'll be driving down the street sometimes listening to her and I'll hear the jingles. But I do Delilah jingles, a lot of jingles for like, I was doing like the jamming radio stations, like Jammin' 94.5 and smooth jazz type stuff. So that's something that I really enjoyed doing for the time. But yeah, that's a little something, collaboration that was very cool. I also did a collaboration with Philip Bailey on his Dreams project. I never met him, but I did a bunch of background work for him. So that's an interesting one too.
Do you still get that little tingle when you hear yourself on the radio or television?
It every single time. It's just like a little bit of magic, because I'll never forget one time I was back home in Seattle and we had released Show You on the Seattle The Dark Side, and I'm walking down the street and some dude is bumping it going down Pike Place Market. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Let me run up to the car. Let me hear that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of surreal when you hear someone else playing it or if it's on the radio, for sure.
Right. Do you learn more from your wins or your losses?
I think I learn more from the losses. It's like when you're on a football team or a basketball team, you got to go into the locker room and retool. And I'm always one to take constructive criticism and I look at myself and just reanalyze what I'm doing. But I also try to keep it, very much according to me. Because a lot of times you'll look at things, say, well, how come this didn't work for me and it worked for someone else? Well, everyone's different, and we all got our own special sauce, so to speak. So, but the losses will teach you a lot because, if you're humble enough to just say, okay, that didn't work out, but let me figure out what I need to do to correct that or make the change and adjust.
Okay. All right. So what's next for you, Darnel?
All right, so next, I'm working on some new material. I believe I'll either put out an EP or an album, but something's coming out this fall. I figure by the fall I should be done with quite a few songs to give people a love album.
Okay, and just plug your socials. I mean, of course, everyone already knows where they can find you, but where can we get our hands on Amazing and What If and the back catalog?
Yeah, the back catalog. Yep. So iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. All my stuff is on YouTube as well. So, and anything that I'm going to be putting out currently will show up there. Another plug for May 11th, I'll be doing Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center, a Mother's Day Luther Vandross tribute show with Elaine Gibbs. She's doing Aretha, and I lost the other guy's name, but he's doing Barry White. So it's going to be a really good tribute.
Cool.
To do that. So I'm excited about that. I feel like there's a lot of crazy stuff coming in the future, but I will be sure to let everyone know. So it's at Darnel with one L, Alexander Music, Darnel Alexander Music on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And then on Facebook, it's just Darnel Alexander. Watch out for all the fake accounts and these guys who be asking you to come over to, Telegram and WhatsApp to get your money. Don't do it. I don't ask people for anything.
Mm-hmm. All right. I would say that's a parting shot, but if you have a parting shot that you want to leave my audience, I mean, just even, encouraging words, on this journey, like you persevered through. And
yeah, man, I tell you, life, is crazy because you're trying to be this vessel of light, and you've got relationships, as we both know. You've got your career, whatever it is you're aspiring to do, and you've got personal relationships. And I say, most of all, protect your peace. Always make the adjustment to be working towards something that's going to bring you true inner joy. Don't look at all the material things. That stuff comes and goes, but really try to find ways to find inner joy and happiness, and then that will radiate outward to attract everything that you desire in life.
Okay. Wise words from Darnel Alexander. Yep, like I said, you can find him, Darnel Alexander Music, everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, his website, darnelalexandermusic.com.
Yes.
All right, so, if you want to close us out with any piece of Luther that you want, then...
Yeah. What did I just did the anyone who'd ever loved dum, dum, could look at me dum, dum, and know that I love you. Anyone who'd ever dreamed could look at me and know I dream of you. Knowing I love you so. Anyone who had a heart would take me in her arms and love me too. You couldn't really have a heart and hurt me like you've hurt me and be so untrue. What am I to do?
Oh, you're truly blessed, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Love what you're doing. Continue just supplying us with amazing work, like from your
Yes,
personal
sir.
catalog
Yeah.
and channeling the hits. Like we want it all. So
All right.
rest in peace to Luther Vandross as well. And for Stop, Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.
Peace.